This is the extratime.com Friday podcast. I'm Oisin Langan. What a week it has been since the cup final. It feels like it has been a month, not a week. Here's what we know. Tim Clancy is now part of the St. Patrick's Athletic management team and Kevin Doherty has taken over at Drogheda. The two clubs were very nice about each other while tweeting about it earlier on today. And by today, I mean Thursday, because I'm recording this on Thursday night. And I'm telling you this because things may well have moved on by the time you're listening on Friday. Stephen O'Donnell will be confirmed by Dundalk at some stage, I'm sure. But who will be the pro licence part of that ticket? We'll speak to former St. Patrick's Athletic player Conan Byrne about all of that in a little while. And even though we had that conversation on Thursday when things were yet to be confirmed, it doesn't change anything about the conversation because we kind of guessed that all of this stuff would be confirmed. So we talked about it like it was a fait accompli. We've also got Eve Badana of the DLR Waves. She was named on the SSE Airtricity Women's National League team of the season earlier in the week. She talks about that. She talks about DLR Waves and what they want to do next season and how they want to drive on from what they've done this season. And also she talks about trying to play for Ireland again. That's something she really wants to do. Has won some caps, but wants to win more. Originally from Canada, she came here to study in UCC and played for Cork City. And now she's living and working in Dublin. We'll chat to her in a little while. We'll also have Barry Murphy and Andrew Trimble, formerly of Munster and Ulster, respectively. They'll talk to us a little bit about rugby, a little bit about hosting the Zurich Irish Rugby Awards tonight. That's Friday, live on Facebook. We'll give you the detail of where you can watch that in a while. They'll also talk to us about Ultimate Hell Week. The two men were involved in that amazing TV show that was on a couple of months ago. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth a look. There is, of course, a full round of club fixtures this weekend in Gaelic games and camogie and ladies football. We'll feature some of those games and talk about them on Monday's podcast. We had a chat with David Kennedy of Lockmore Castleiney on Monday. He's 45, he's still playing, and he was part of the Lockmore Castleiney team that won the senior double in Tipperary last weekend. They're playing in the Munster Championship this weekend. If you want to go back and listen to that, by all means, please do. First though, it is Conan Byrne. Conan, of course, formerly of St. Pat's. Conan, I'm just trying to think, is there anything much to talk to a former St. Patrick's Athletic player about this week?
Don't think so, Oisin. No.
I don't think so, no. Nothing really happening.
No, not really.
Cup final last weekend, maybe.
Really.
Yeah, come here, we'll get to all that, but you're doing something way more important than anything that's going on in football at the moment. And the thing is about football, we get wrapped up in all these stories about where Stephen O'Donnell is going and who'll replace him and is it right and is it wrong. And that's grand, and those things are important, of course they are. But the really important thing about sport is the ability it has to make a genuine impact on the things that really matter in the world. And in fairness to you, Conan, this is something that you have used sport for in the last couple of years. You've gone on charity walks, you've done fundraisers, and you and Brendan Clark of Shelburne have joined up for another one. Tell me about this and tell me about what you're doing and where people can donate to this magnificent cause that you and Brendan are involved with.
Yeah, thanks, Oisin. Well, this, believe it or not, this has been in the pipeline for, I'd say, since we've been both Pats players. So it's good to 4 or 5 years. We've talked about this this particular fundraiser that we're doing, which will involve going to every single League of Ireland ground in the country and trying to hit the crossbar from the halfway line. I don't know if your listeners might know this, but usually at the start of training, I know things have kind of stopped now in the last couple of years with sports science, but you'd usually go out for a kick around before training and it would end up having shots from the halfway line to three who would hit the crossbar. So that's where the idea came from, where it would be a bit of fun to do it. And at the time I was, as you say, like I do love in fundraising, and I've just decided to do pick different charities that mean a lot to me. And thankfully, with the support of the magnificent support from the League of Ireland community and beyond, they've proved very fruitful. So I've continued to do that, them every year. And I thought now was the time. Last year, I kind of only concentrated on the Dublin clubs, where I had to because of COVID, obviously.
Probably also now, because you couldn't have walked to all of the League of Ireland grounds as well. That's probably the other reason.
True. But yeah, so we're able to do it this time. And with the magnificent support we have from actually Brendan Clark's goalkeeping sponsor Precision, and then GoCar as well have been absolutely fantastic for us too, providing us with a car and petrol for the journey. So it makes it a lot easier for us to concentrate on what matters, and that's trying to drum up a lot of support within the League of Ireland community for fans if they wanted to come down to the game, come down to the stadiums when we're there, just have a bit of interaction with them, a bit of fun, depending on the groundsman, obviously, if they can take part. So yeah, that's the type of thing that we're trying to do, and at the bottom of it all, to try and raise as much money as we can for the wonderful charity that is Make-A-Wish.
Now, just for those who are unfamiliar with Make-A-Wish, you might tell us what they do and what they're about.
Of course, Make-A-Wish are a children's charity that grant wishes to children with life-threatening illnesses. I first known about Make-A-Wish when I was I wouldn't say very young, but a teammate of mine and my underage football team's sister was diagnosed with a form of cancer, and she made a wish to swim with dolphins. And just to see the family and heading off, and I was a young boy at the time, and being able to see the impact that it had on not only the child but on the family itself, going through such a horrible and really difficult period, to see the pictures when they came home of how happy that they all were. It still is with me today, obviously. So, and that's just one case. There's over the last they have a waiting list at the moment to Make-A-Wish, a long waiting list. And if we can just help in shortening that, to provide those really important wishes for these children, because it would be a very, very sad thing if these wishes could not be granted to these children.
And where can people donate?
They can donate, Oisin, on the GoFundMe page. If you just type in my name or Brendan's name or the Crossbar Challenge, I'm sure it will come up there. Or if you follow Twitter, again, myself, Conan Byrne CB7, or Bren Clark 1, you'd find it there. And also, if you type in Make-A-Wish Crossbar Challenge into Twitter as well, we have a designated page set up that we will show videos and pictures of the event when it takes place.
Yeah, it sounds to me like Make-A-Wish try to provide moments of joy for the children themselves, but also their family. And I think there's a lesson in that for all of us. And I suppose we've all had a bit of misery over the last year, given what the planet has gone through, that you do have to find moments of joy no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what your own circumstances are, because that's what kind of gets you through.
I think that's a very important point, Oisin. Absolutely. We've all everybody on the whole planet has suffered over the last 18, 24 months. And I think it's important that we try and find some positivity in that. And if that is picking up the phone and calling somebody, if that's donating to worthy causes, if that's getting outside and getting a bit of fresh air, looking after your own mental health, physical health, whatever it is, that we need to do that as a society and as individuals. And I think that it'll make you feel better personally for it as well.
Yeah, how important is that to kind of look beyond yourself? As human beings, we can be quite selfish in our nature, but over the last couple of years particularly, and probably before that, but I've obviously got to know you in the last couple of years. You know, you've done the charity walk, you're doing this for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, you've made phone calls to those who just wanted to chat, and you got other people to do that as well. How important is it to do that, and how much do you yourself nearly get out of it? Because it must bring you joy to bring joy to others.
Oh, it does. There's no doubt about it, Oisin. That's why I'm not going to say that's why I do it, but it's definitely, as I said at the start of this interview, I enjoy fundraising. I enjoy making other people happy. I enjoy seeing smiles on other people's faces, and by seeing other people smile, it's just a natural thing that you will too. And as I said, I'm a very positive person, and I like to bring positivity in my job, in the classroom, when I was a footballer, in the dressing room, on the pitch, and at home in my family life. So, not saying that I'm a saint or anything like that, but at the same time, I think I think we forget sometimes the importance of community, and I think that's really, really important, especially at the times that we're in at the moment, because there's people on this island that maybe haven't spoken to anybody outside their own family circle in the last 2 years, and I think that was the idea behind the last little bit we organised, in the sense of bringing the elderly people in our society to give them a pick me up and talk about football, and so many people were involved in that. It was absolutely fantastic. But I started off thinking that it was going to be a thing for the elderly, for the people that were cocooning, but it quickly switched to young people that were suffering with mental health issues, that were really struggling, not being able to go out to have fun with their friends. And we've got to remember that too. Like 18, 19, 20-year-olds haven't experienced the nightlife that we've enjoyed, Oisin, and they're only listening to stories of what it was like. So it's they have really suffered through all this as well. And as I said, that those phone calls at the time were a source of great satisfaction for those young people too. But yeah, it's just something, and I think the thing is, you always kind of have to think outside the box with certain charity initiatives, and it kind of captures the imagination, this one, in the sense that it's going to be a difficult one. It's a bit of fun trying to hit the crosshair from the halfway line. That's why I'm glad Brendan, when we were talking about it, Brendan was absolutely chuffed to jump on board with it as well, because he's a goalkeeper, and I'm delighted that a goalkeeper has agreed to come with me, considering he can strike a ball. So
the goalkeepers are the best strikers of the ball, according to the former Dundalk owner. So I mean, he should have no problem. Have you been practicing? Will you practice? How on average, how long do you think it's going to take you to hit the crossbar per ground?
Yeah, we were talking about that. We have 20 footballs that we will be taking with us. We have kind of said that if it takes us, if we do it in one round, so if it takes us one of us to hit the crossbar in 20 shots, we'll be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
If it takes us maybe 3 rounds, well, then we'll struggle a little bit and a little bit more. But look, it'll all depend on the ground as well. Some grounds are shorter than others. I'm not really looking forward to Dalymount. That's the second leg of the journey. That's pretty far, but you know yourself, Oisin, I was very close to hitting the bar not so long ago at Dalymount Park. So it's going to be
whatever are you talking about, Conan? Maybe you'd like to explain what you mean. Is it that you scored from inside your own half? You couldn't possibly be bringing that up again, could you?
Not at all. I wouldn't do that. But yeah, it's going to be fun, and that's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to bring up a video producer along with us. Not a video producer, just a media man, let's say, to come around and to kind of video the event for people that would like to follow us virtually. So that will be hopefully that will be the case as well, and it should be a great thing to get behind.
And when you're doing this, do the old habits kick in? Because people who played at the top level of sport, like yourself, your mindset is different to a randomer like me or your average maybe like pub league footballer, in the sense that if you don't do it maybe after 5 goals, you start getting frustrated with yourself. Will all those instincts kick back in? Will we see an angry Conan if you're not after hitting the bar following your 10th attempt? How will it work?
Well, Shane, I'm very disappointed. When have you ever seen me angry?
Well, it's surprisingly enough, you've worked with me and you haven't been made angry by that. So I suppose if I hadn't seen you angry having worked with me, I don't think you're ever angry. But frustrated, we'll say, not angry.
No, I don't think so. I think I've always I think I'll see the fun aspect to it throughout, and I'm sure it'll bring a sense of joy to the viewers at home when we don't hit a crossbar in the first 125 goes. So it'll it's all, as I said, this is a fun thing. I don't think it'll kind of get to me where if I grow frustrated over a certain not hitting the crossbar, but it's all about kind of adapting and trying to, might let Brendan hit a few if I start getting a little bit hot under the collar of not hitting one, but I can't see that happening. It'll be, as I said, it'll be a bit of fun. Hopefully some people, some people can come down, players, fans, owners, managers, whoever, and they can have a bit of join in and have a cup of coffee with us afterwards, maybe, if we have time, of course.
And it is from the halfway line you're kicking the ball, yes?
Yeah, we cannot leave the ground until one of us hit the crossbar, yeah.
Wow. Well, I remember we're going back to 2002 here. We used to host a crossbar challenge at Turner's Cross in front of the old shed end. Now, you're aware of how intimidating that shed end is, and they didn't particularly like me because I was very loud on the mic, and I can't blame them for being annoyed by me. But we used to have a crossbar challenge from just outside the box, the arc of the D, and like people who you'd think would hit it without a bother really struggle at times. So I can only imagine how hard it will be from the halfway line. There was one person who walked up with their hands in their pockets, and I'll let you guess who it was. Hands in the pockets, just said, "No bother, kid. Which leg?" And I said, "What?" He said, "What foot do you want me to kick the ball with?" And I said, "Left." Sure enough, first time, boom, off the crossbar. Now, who do you think that was? It was a former Cork City footballer.
George O'Callaghan.
Yes, that's exactly who it was. Did the what leg kid give it away?
No, not at all. As soon as you brought it up, I was like Liam Kearney, John O'Flynn. And I was like, hold on there a second. It's got to be Georgie.
Yep, yeah, had to be Georgie. Conan, we'll remind people at the end of this discussion where they can contribute to this fundraiser that you're doing with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's fantastic stuff. We wish you well with the challenge, and hopefully I'll join you along the journey somewhere. As you're aware, I kind of split my time between Waterford and Dundalk, so it'll either be in Dundalk and Drogheda, or it'll either be the RSC, Cove Ramblers ground, St. Coleman's Park, and maybe Turner's Cross. I won't have a goal though, because I'm not sure I could even reach the box kicking a ball from the halfway line, let alone hitting the crossbar. It's been an interesting.
Go on. That their voice will be able to hit it anyway.
Well, that's it. Yeah, people used to tell me to turn down the PA, and I would say, "I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't even got the thing turned on yet." It was unusual back then, because in some parts of the ground it was turned up to the max, in other parts it was too low. So they were saying, "Okay, we can't hear you," and then other people were literally shouting at me and sending text messages into Red FM saying, "Please get him to be quiet." Although I think they meant generally, not just at Turner's Cross. Anyway, this week has been interesting. What have you made of the events of what we think we know is happening, which is Stephen O'Donnell going to Dundalk, Tim Clancy going to St. Pat's, and Dara Doyle potentially joining Kevin Doherty at Drogheda?
Yeah, it's the merry-go-round of players has kind of switched and altered to the merry-go-round of managers. But at the same time, it happens in a lot of countries. I know a lot of people are saying that it's only just the League of Ireland, but it actually isn't. It happens in a lot of places. I think it's just it's just crazy the way that they win an FAI Cup on Sunday, and then on Tuesday the news breaks that Stephen O'Donnell is more than likely leaving St. Patrick's Athletic. You can imagine what the owners think, the owner, should I say, Gareth Kelleher, in the sense that none of the squad has been signed up for next year. This is what I'd be worried about anyway, Oisin, is that hardly any of the squad has been lined up for next year, has been signed up for next year. They all are obsessed with Stevie O'Donnell and how he works. So, in my opinion, if Stevie O'Donnell does move to Dundalk, St. Pat's are going to struggle in signing those players that they have had that have won an FAI Cup. I think that's the seriousness of it all. As a former St. Pat's player, I'm extremely disappointed in that. That the players haven't been signed up. We've talked about Bohemians. We've talked about Dundalk players last year, the likes of Sean Gannon, Sean Hoare, when they weren't signed back, that they were able to be taken off by Shamrock Rovers, and now the same thing is happening again. It's like clubs don't learn, and you need to keep your prized assets at the football club. And we all know that Stevie O'Donnell has fantastic relationships with players in that dressing room, the likes of John Mountain, the likes of Robbie Benson, who was instrumental on Sunday in the cup final. Chris Forrester has spoken openly about the impact that Stevie O'Donnell has had on him, both as a player and as a person. So these players that I've mentioned are all out of contract. So what is going to happen to these players at St. Pat's? Are they going to be happy with the potential new manager and Tim Clancy coming in? Are they going to have the same relationship that they've had? I don't know. So it's going to be a very interesting next 72 hours where what's going to come out of this. there's still been no official statement about anybody going anywhere. Gareth Kelleher surely isn't happy with the situation. I wouldn't be either if I was him. He's already said, it's come out, I think somebody mentioned it, that Stevie O'Donnell has a contract in writing for the next 2 years. So how do they get around that? How will Dundalk get out of that? How will Stevie O'Donnell get out of that if that's the case? And if Stevie O'Donnell doesn't go, well then what will happen with Tim Clancy? What will happen with Kev Doherty? What will happen with Dara Doyle? So it's kind of all up in the air at the moment, Oisin. So I'm not going to say that all this is going to happen, because if it was going to happen, I'm surprised it hasn't come out already. So that's just I just think it's a strange situation that we're in.
And as we speak, it's Thursday. We're recording this for the Friday podcast. So a lot could change. But I think even if it's all confirmed, we kind of already know what's happening. There is an argument out there that Stephen O'Donnell should stay where he is because he has built something special at St. Pat's and he can kick on from here, having won the cup and finished second in the league and got into Europe. He should build on that. And going to Dundalk is actually, for him, a very big risk. What do you make of that argument?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because Stephen O'Donnell is synonymous with Dundalk. If we all remember rightly, before Dundalk, he was going to go back to Galway and retire and probably give up football. And then Stephen Kenny plucked him out of the wilderness, brought him up to Dundalk, and then he won everything that there was to win. And over again. So you can kind of see where Stevie's coming from. That would be more, this is the club that has resurrected his career and probably himself as a person too. So you're going to have that raw and affection for that club. Now, having said that, yes, Stevie O'Donnell has built St. Patrick's back up and given them that identity back that I felt that they have lost over the last number of years. But are they going to win the league next year with Shamrock Rovers if he was still... are they going to win the league next year? I don't think so. Are they going to win the FAI Cup next year? I really don't know either. So is he going to really build on what he has done? Has he done more than what St. Patrick's Athletic could have achieved in a short period of time? I don't know. So he's probably saying to himself, am I going to do a better job next year than I am this year, finishing second and winning an FAI Cup? I don't think he will. I don't think he would. So his reputation is at an all-time high at this moment in time. And going back to Dundalk, he's not expected to win the league next year. His job next year would be get Dundalk back into Europe. And with the budget that they will probably be given, which will be very healthy, the players that will be attracted to Dundalk, given that he's gone back as manager, I think that it's a fair enough decision from Stevie O'Donnell to make. I know the St. Pat's fans aren't going to be happy with me saying that, but I'm just looking at it from his point of view and not from St. Pat's.
Could this now turn into a race to get the best players available? Because as per typical of Irish football, and it happens in other countries as well, once the final whistle went in the cup final, or once that final penalty went in, a lot of these boys were on transfer lists, a lot of these boys were unemployed. So there's a whole bunch of players out there who are just waiting to be spoken with by clubs, who are just waiting to be signed up. Does it now turn into a race to get those players? And are we kind of all at point zero? And what I mean there is everything that Pats have built, everything that has gone wrong at Dundalk, Bohemians losing the cup final, it kind of doesn't matter because everyone is starting from the same point, trying to get a squad together for next season, because very few teams actually have a lot of players signed up, with the exception, obviously, of Shamrock Rovers.
It's a catastrophe that it has come to that, Oisin, because at the same time, you're saying about players, a race against time for players to be signed up. Most of the players in our league at this moment in time are away. They've gone on their holidays. So I know a lot of players that are in Cancun. I know a lot of players that are in Europe and other places around. And there's no, they want a break from it all. Now, I know with the St. Pat's players, some of them are completely shocked by this news. There hasn't been much communication between with the players over the last number of days, which surprises me and disappoints me as well, because at the same time, these players deserve more. The contract issues that they have should have been sorted out well before the end of the season. Again, I'm not just talking about St. Patrick's Athletic, I'm talking about every team. And I know you're talking about the League of Ireland and its uncertainty, but you need to try to wrap up players and secure their services for the better of the club and for the league as well, because you can't allow players like they did like Shamrock Rovers did last year. They were able to pluck players from the best teams because they were out of contract. And Derry managed it well as well, bringing in Michael Duffy and Patrick McElhenney for absolutely nothing when they're worth six-figure sums and the rest. So it's very disappointing in that way.
Yep. And you know what? You're absolutely right to bring up Derry, and I should have said that Derry are another club who've got a lot of players locked in, and Shamrock Rovers the same. Just before I let you go, Conan, and we could talk about this forever, and I've seen so many points brought up on social media, and there's been so much great writing about it. Daniel MacDonald of the Irish Independent has been very good on this. It's worth following him just to follow the latest minute by minute. But just before I let you go, Alan Reynolds has been signed up by Derry City. He is now their assistant manager. He'll work with Rory Higgins. It's a good move for Rennie. It's probably a good move for Derry as well.
It's fantastic. It's great for Rennie as well, going back up. He's been at Shelburne. No surprise that he's gone in, but with his experience as well with Ian Morris, and got them right back up. So yeah, he's been. It's a great move for him. And Rory Higgins has been very smart as well, because Alan Reynolds knows this league really, really well. Knows a lot of players in it. He's worked at St. Pat's, he's worked at Waterford, he's worked at Cork, he's now worked at Shelburne. He's been a former player at Derry, so he knows the club. So it's a very, very clever move. He also has worked with the Irish under-21 team. So if there's any players that are on the radar of that team, they have a good relationship with Alan Reynolds. So it's a very, very clever move. So yeah, I think Derry are going to be very, very. They're going to be the dark horses next year. I think everybody knows that, and I don't know if we can call them dark horses now with the signings that they've made, with the money that's invested into the team, both in terms of players and staff. So it'll be interesting to see how they all combine with each other, and if it's going to be a successful season for them, because a successful Derry City team is only good for the league.
Yep, and it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that even though technically we're now in the off-season, there's not really going to be an off-season given all that's happening with St. Pat's and Dundalk, and we can throw Drogheda into that as well, because they may need to appoint a new manager or just step Kevin Doherty up. Waterford, we don't know what's happening there. I thought maybe Alan Reynolds would be tempted to go back there. He left under a previous owner, but the owner that has it now is very, very, very quiet, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then we're kind of back into the friendly matches in January. And I always say that even though the league itself will probably kick off, I think it's sometime in early February, it actually kind of really starts in January when we start talking about matches, and we try and get to various friendlies to see who's doing what and who's shaping up well and who isn't shaping up well. So, there are faults there, and you'd like to see a bit more solidity in employment, as in you'd like to see guys get maybe 2 or 3 year contracts instead of 1 year contracts. But it's good, isn't it, Conan? There is no off-season. We'll keep talking about the League of Ireland.
Yeah, it's great. It really is, and it's going to be a shorter season next year as well with the Qatar World Cup that's taking place next November. So the season has to start earlier, and then it finishes earlier than it has this season. So yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. I can be honest with you, with the weather that we have, I can see a couple of games probably being postponed early on in the season, because there's been no rain really, and I can just see and with the seasons that I'm turning into a weather person now, but if I can see there being causing a bit of havoc early on in the season, and hopefully that's not going to be a sign for delays and postponements and things like that, because in a short season that's not what we want. We want the best for our players, the best opportunities in Europe, to progress as well. So that's going to be very, very important. So yeah, as you say, it's going to be a shorter off season. It's going to be really, really interesting to see who's coming and going at certain clubs. And yeah, already really looking forward to next season.
And hopefully this season we can get into friendlies. It doesn't seem like it was only a couple of months ago fans weren't allowed to go to games. And I remember in pre-season I felt like I was trying to buy something illegal, getting onto various clubs, kind of going, any friendlies, mate? Any friendlies going on, mate? Get me into a friendly, mate.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah. Hopefully, fans will be allowed into a lot of the friendlies. Some of them are behind closed doors, and there's reasons for that. But hopefully, we can get back to matches sooner rather than later. Conan, just before we let you go, where can we make donations to this fantastic thing that you and Brendan Clark are doing for the Make-A-Wish Foundation?
Yes, again, just can go onto my Twitter handle, Conan Byrne CB7, or at Bren Clark 1. There's also a Make-A-Wish Crossbar Challenge Twitter page set up as well, and all the links are on that. And then if you're not on social media, you can donate via the GoFundMe page itself, and just type in my name, Brendan's name, or the Crossbar Challenge, and it'll come up there.
Okay, Conan Byrne, thank you very much for joining us. And by the way, well done to you and Con Murphy. You had a great thing going over the season with the Pundit Arena League of Ireland podcast. Con is, okay, he's a Rovers man, but that doesn't mean he's not a good person. I thought it was fantastic.
Well
done to you and Con for your continuous great coverage of League of Ireland. And thanks for joining us today on the extratime.com Friday podcast.
You too, Oisin. Thank you.
This is the extratime.com Friday podcast. No doubt you saw it during the week. The SSE Airtricity Women's National League Team of the Year was unveiled. The 11 members of that team are Eve Badana of DLR Waves, Jessie Stapleton of Shelbourne, Lauren Dwyer of Wexford Youths, Savannah McCarthy of Galway, Anya O'Gorman of Peamount, Ciara Grant of Shelbourne, Karen Duggan of Peamount, Aoibhinn Clancy of Wexford Youths, Ciara Rossiter, Ella Malloy and Kylie Murphy, all also of Wexford Youths. The player of the year, by the way, was Kylie Murphy of Wexford Youths. Now, we did mention there that Eve Badana was named as the goalkeeper in that team of the year, and I'm delighted to say that Eve is with us now. Eve, how are you?
Great, yeah. Thanks for having me on, Oisin.
No problem at all. Just as we're recording this, I'm after watching the Arsenal-Manchester United game. I'm not sure if you saw it. Not sure if you got a look at that. Okay, what did you make? Yeah. What did you make of David De Gea going down the way he did for Arsenal's first goal? I assume that's something you would never do. You, regardless of what kind of pain you were in, as long as that ball was in play, you'd be trying to get back up on your feet, especially if it was one of your own players who took you down.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's obviously it's goalkeeping style differs, but yeah, it's a tricky one. You'd want to try and get up as quick as you can, of course, but I mean, like until you're in that position, it's very hard to judge. But yeah, I mean, look, they got the 3 points in the end.
They certainly did. Are you a fan of either Arsenal or Manchester United?
No, I was watching that as a neutral supporter. I support Liverpool.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you've had a very good week then, a 4-1 win against Everton last night. Do you pay particular attention?
Great derby.
Well, a great derby for those in red, not so much for those in blue. Do you pay particular attention to goalkeepers when you're watching games, or can you just enjoy them for what they are, the whole thing?
Well, like I love to watch, like I'll watch any football match, regardless of who's playing, you know, be it under 5 kids or Premier League. So it doesn't, I love to watch football. But in terms of watching the goalkeepers, I suppose it's kind of part and parcel of it all. Occupational hazard, if you will. You know, you kind of watch, analyze. That's how you learn. And yeah, no, I would be particularly keen to see the goalkeepers and a variety of goalkeepers at that.
And is there any particular goalkeeper that you like to follow and that you study particularly closely, be it male or female?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, I guess historically we would have grown up, you know, with, I guess, certain goalkeepers, like let's say Gianluigi Buffon. Like you'd watch reams and reams of him, looking at kind of his style, and then when I suppose Manuel Neuer came along, we kind of watched that kind of school of goalkeeping develop. So I suppose over time, you kind of do pick up different, I guess, trends even in goalkeeping. So it is kind of interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, like I would try and, you know, follow certain goalkeepers, definitely keep them on the radar.
Yeah. Okay, I went off on a bit of a tangent there because that game is so fresh in my mind. But the reason we're talking to you is because you have been named in the team of the year. First of all, how does that feel? I appreciate players want to win trophies more so than anything else rather than individual awards. But to get an individual award is a nice compliment to you and says an awful lot about how well you played this season.
Oh yeah. Well, to be honest, I was very surprised and humbled by the award to be recognised by my peers and um spectators of the league. That was definitely very special. And it being the second year in a row is very special to me. But yeah, would I rather have a team trophy? Yes, but I think being named to the team of the year is really just a reflection of how my team DLR Waves performed this year. And I wouldn't have been even in the conversation if it hadn't been for the players around me pushing me on and performing week in, week out. And of course, all the management and coaching staff with Waves who really invested in all of our development.
There is something building at Waves, and they were very much in that top three conversation, and finishing fourth wasn't a bad end result at all. And I'm sure you're glad that you're going to stay as part of that plan because you've been signed up for next season as well.
Yeah, I am. I'm delighted to return and to be welcome back. But you hit the nail on the head there, Oisin. Like we're trying to build. Last year we finished sixth, and we kind of put in our heads that look, we wanted to secure a top four finish. If you can break the top three, that's definitely a goal. But we, no questions asked, we have to be in the top four, which we secured comfortably this year. But we go again. There's already been discussions about how we're going to push forward for next year. So I think that type of vision is really, really good to see, and I think it's a great sign, both on the backroom staff pushing us forward, and the players having that commitment and that integrity to kind of follow through with it. So yeah, grateful to be in such a I guess ambitious environment, and as well it can only be coupled with great support from the club. So it's I'm looking forward to it.
And that's great as well, that already you're looking ahead. There's no kind of standing around wondering what's happening for a couple of weeks and then the plans are put in place. Ye are already in pre-season. I imagine as a player, that's what you want, especially a player as ambitious as yourself and a team as ambitious as DLR Waves are.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. We're enjoying the mince pies for the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie, but
yeah.
Look, like, mentally and physically, a couple of weeks of a break is kind of definitely what we'll say is on the cards for the moment. But it's almost like putting a bookmark in a book, if you get me. We're hoping to pick back up where we started and keep driving on. But I think definitely the kind of little Christmas break is really really important for all the players and the staff, just because when you think about it, like we started last year in January, and like it is a long season, and it's a lot of kind of hyper focus at times. It's a lot to put your body through. It's a lot to put a lot of sacrifices made during the year. So when these kind of breaks come, they're very well deserved, and I hope everyone across the league gets the chance to enjoy it with family and friends.
And I'm sure they'll enjoy the break, and I'm sure they are taking some bit of a break. But you see, here's the thing: to elite athletes such as yourself, your break is very different to my break. My break is doing absolutely nothing, but I imagine your break is not maybe training at the intensity that you had been throughout the season, or not maybe working that hard, but at the same time, you're probably still in the gym, still thinking about it. I imagine it's never far from your mind, kind of thinking about what's coming down the line.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good way to put it. And you're right. That's going back to what we were talking about earlier, about watching different goalkeepers, watching different teams play. Like, yes, there's no women's national league at the moment, but there is still the Super League. There's the Premier League. There's there's different competitions going on. So we have that, and yeah, it's a time of reflection as well. We look back. We've got great kind of resources with the likes of Huddle to look back at our training, to look back at our matches, and kind of that will help us prepare for preseason in terms of targeting what we specifically need to as individuals and as a team. So while, yeah, maybe physically we might not be training at the same level, we're definitely, I'm sure a lot of people are still putting in time, to improve and get better.
And when you're putting in that time and looking back at moments during games and thinking about things during games, do you only think of the good moments, or do you have to look at the bad moments as well? And given that you're on the team of the year, there hasn't been too many bad moments, so that's a good thing. But what kind of mindset do you have about this?
Oh no, there's definitely been plenty let's say, shaky moments. All right, but like that's it. Like I do have that critical eye in terms of self-reflection. Like I guess that's just kind of a mindset. I want to always push forward, which means you kind of have to look at where weaknesses exist, where there's a potential to be a better teammate on the pitch, and off the pitch, of course, but on the pitch, how can you take more care of the ball? How can you organize better as a goalkeeper? So it's definitely, you do have to look critically, and you have to kind of be very honest about how to move forward and how to improve, and how best you can help the team in whatever the particular goal is. So yeah, like definitely looking back, it's kind of about that reflection and being honest and setting kind of, I guess, targets for yourself.
Yeah. Look, I appreciate your concern is DLR Waves and your primary focus is DLR Waves, but I assume you got lots of thank you messages from Shelbourne players after that game against Peamount, the second last game in the league, in which you saved a penalty and kept it going to the last day. And then, of course, on the last day, we saw what happened. Shelbourne managed to pull off a surprise league victory. I assume all the Shelbourne players have been on to you to say thanks.
No, hardly. But no, it's like, I think, do you know what, those series of games there towards the end, I think like it really just kind of shows the excitement and the competitiveness in the league, gaps closing left and right. And I think it was a really positive kind of passage to end on. So I think there's a lot to look forward to next year. I think the competition is only getting tougher. So no, like again, it's great to kind of see that across the league.
And as a player, did you like the increased profile the league had this season, given that every game was available live and for free through LOI TV? And then, of course, in the last part of the league, a lot of the games were available on linear TV, as in public service TV. People could actually watch them on TG Car, and including the last two rounds that were very exciting.
Yeah, you know what? Like, it's in the few years I've been a part of the league, you can really see the development, and I guess the lift in exposure. A kind of bigger platform that we're now under, with the likes of the league sponsorship coming now from SSE Airtricity, with LOI TV coming on board, with TGR coming on board. It's brilliant to see. I think it kind of, it's a good sign, and I think it's a good sign of things moving forward, and I guess it becoming a bit more mainstream, I suppose, with the likes of TGR. So I suppose it's a very positive development, and it also drives you on from a personal point of view, because nobody wants to get hockeyed on the telly now, like, to be honest. So you when the cameras, the lights are there, you want to put on a good show. So I think aside from that, even though everybody's motivated in their own way, it does add that extra little bit, surely.
Yeah. And Eve, just before I let you go, you have played for Ireland. There's obviously a lot of competition there at the moment. Is that something you're keen to keep driving towards? Is that something that you very much still have in mind, to play for Ireland again?
Yeah. To be honest, it's always been like a passion, and when I've had the opportunity, a great privilege and honor. So it's definitely something I would like to work towards, to become like a regular member of the squad, and then to push in from there. But like I said, the only thing I can do at this point is mind my own house and keep the head down, keep working, and hopefully, with more training, more training and a bit more exposure, who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, and the fact that there was an awful lot of players who played in the 11-0 the other night against Georgia who were part of League of Ireland teams. Does that give you a bit of hope as well that, that there are players who are based in this league who are going directly into that Ireland setup, directly into that Ireland team?
Yeah, it's really brilliant to see. It's absolutely brilliant to see so much representation of current and former players of the Women's National League. I think it's a great sign. And I think it's really just another call for continued grassroots development here in Ireland. It is feasible. It's more than that, actually. And I think the talent is there, the passion and the dedication is there. So hopefully, the rest and the bits and pieces will come, because there's such a great pool of young players coming through. There's a great existing basis with our under 17, under 19 and senior Women's National League. So I think it's a great statement to see that, especially in the most recent historic 11-0 victory.
Yep. Okay. Eve Badana, really appreciate you taking the call, because as we speak, it's quite late on a Thursday night. And I know you have a day job and a busy life. So I do appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, and congratulations on being named in the SSE Airtricity Women's National League Team of the Season. Eve Badana, thanks for joining us on the extratime.com podcast.
Perfect. Thanks, Oisin. Cheers. All the best.
And following that chat with Eve Badana, you'd be rooting for her to win more caps for the Republic of Ireland. Those of you who have seen her play this season will know that she's not too far off getting in for Ireland again. Right, let's talk about rugby. It's a busy weekend for Irish provinces. Munster, for all the obvious reasons, won't be playing, but Leinster and Connacht are in action against each other this evening at 7:45. Ulster, following their great win against Leinster last weekend, are away to the Ospreys tomorrow, that's Saturday, at 3 o'clock. Tonight, or today I should say, it's a big day for my next two guests, Andrew Trimble, formerly of Ulster, and Barry Murphy, formerly of Munster, because they will host this year's Zurich Irish Rugby Players Awards. The awards will be broadcast at 1 p.m. via Facebook Live on the Rugby Players Ireland Facebook page. In a little while, I'll talk to the lads about rugby over the last year and the journey that it has gone on. I'll talk to them about their experience on Ultimate Hell Week. They were both involved in that show that was on RTE a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, please go back and watch it. But first, well, I mean, I'm not sure how to introduce it. Do I pretend they're live with me now, or do I make it very clear that I recorded it? Let's just make it clear that I recorded it. I first asked the lads how they were.
Great. Fantastic.
Good. How does it feel to have got such a big gig?
It was great. Yeah, we were pretty surprised that they allowed us two clowns in front of the camera for these and in control of the keys. But look, it's great to be able to look back on a very strange season, which was 2020, 2021. But when you look back, you see how much rugby was piled into it and how much good rugby, a lot of drama. And, when we were locked at home for all those months in lockdown, all these players were going out and entertaining us and giving us something to talk about, even on our own podcast. God knows what we'd have been doing if we hadn't the rugby to talk about. So to be able to kind of acknowledge what all those players achieved and what they went through throughout that season, I think, it's a pretty cool thing to do.
Andrew, how important was rugby to you in the last 18 months plus, in regards getting you through the craziest time this planet has ever experienced?
Yeah, I think we were never happy because we didn't have rugby for a while and we missed rugby, and then we got rugby back with empty stadiums, and we complained that we had fake crowd noise, or it wasn't quite the same product, and that went on for a while, and then and then they kind of that peaked at the Lions really whenever everybody just decided, rugby isn't really for us. And then rugby got its finger out and started getting people back in stadiums. We started seeing some great rugby, and then that peaked really with well, certainly from an Irish perspective, but really the rugby over the autumn in general was brilliant. Full stadiums, the place was absolutely bouncing for the All Blacks game, and we're back. I think we're all back falling in love with rugby again. So that just I'll give you a bit of a snapshot of my rugby journey over the last 18 months.
And we are returning to normality all the time, but there's still a bit of a way to go. Normally, and under normal circumstances, this ceremony would be in person. It's not going to be that way this time around, but hopefully it will be again next year. But what about awards? As we say, you two are hosting the Zurich Irish Rugby Awards this Friday. I imagine to players, Barry, that the primary thing is to win rugby matches and win trophies, but awards are important. They're certainly a very nice thing, aren't they?
I think so. I think especially awards like this, where the players get to come together from different provinces, and and unfortunately we can't do it this year, but have a big night out and get to sit at a table and have normal chats and remove the competitive side. In my experience, that was just brilliant to be up in Dublin every year doing seeing who's going to win the awards each year. So there is always the humble side to it, where players will say that it wasn't. It's all about the team, and that's absolutely correct. But when you look at the list of players that are nominated for all the awards tonight, there's some incredible players and that deserve to be acknowledged. So especially what they put themselves through for that. It was 12 months of exactly 12 months of a full calendar year of rugby. That's a serious amount of time to put yourself through that, both physically and mentally. So the players, both the nominees, their clubs and the winners, I think deserve to be acknowledged for it.
Andrew, are your awards sitting kind of along with your medals, or where do they sit? Where does it rank for you?
Pretty highly. I suppose it's the awards, but it's really what they mean and the people that you share the occasions that you maybe win those awards for. That's what makes it special. I suppose that's what we try and tap into. That's why we love rugby, because yes, we love the game, but we love the people and we love everything that comes with it. And certainly some of my best experiences playing rugby, they were great experiences because you got to share them with great people. So that's what's great about rugby, and that's why we love it. So it ranks up there, all right.
Well, the very best of luck in hosting the awards. They're kind of a major mark along the rugby calendar at the 2021 Zurich Irish Rugby Awards this Friday night. And of course, we can watch you two looking handsome in your tuxedos on Facebook Live. Andrew, a high point last weekend for Ulster, a win against Leinster in the RDS. Yes, finally. That's it. What? Try to explain to me what it means to Ulster.
I think it certainly means a lot. I mean, you're going into one of the most difficult places in Europe to play rugby and to win. And it was, I was going to say, the Leinster team's always strong, even when they rotate heavily. It's still very, very strong, and they still regularly hammer teams out the gate. So going down there, I think Ulster were just hurting a little bit after the Conan result, which is a long time ago, and it's a long time to be kind of feeling that hurt. So they went down with a point to prove, and it looked like they certainly did exactly that. It feels inevitable. If Ulster playing Leinster feels like Ireland playing the All Blacks. It just felt like inevitably they'll get back into the game, or they'll do something. There'll be a bit of magic, and it just never quite came, which is very unlike Leinster. But the reason why it didn't come was because Ulster were so fired up and their defence was so good, and they just looked like they just had a point to prove. And I don't think it dramatically changes Ulster's season, but it just reminds them that they can do it every now and again. They can produce a big performance like that, and doing that regularly and consistently, that'll be the big challenge.
And how important is that in their journey to being able to handle being the overdog, if I can put it that way? Because they seem to be good when they're not expected to win or when the odds are against them, but when there's expectation, they seem to have struggled.
When the odds are against them, I think we've struggled in the past as well at times. But it's a comfortable place to be, and you always try and kind of manage that narrative and talk yourselves down. And You also have to cope with that. Obviously, if you're going to get there, then you need to be able to cope with being there. And it's nice. It's a nice reminder for those fellas. A lot of young guys getting opportunities as well, and guys like James Hume, really stepping up and leading that team. And he's not been in that team very long, and there's a really strong centre partnership with him and Stuart McCluskey. And all of a sudden, James Hume is able to talk about how he wants to push himself forward and he wants to play for Ireland in the Six Nations. And no doubt that ambition will be accompanied by Ulster's ambition to do that more regularly, and getting a taste for it hopefully will continue to drive them to want to do it more regularly. And it's all well and good doing that in November, get to the business end of the season, get to knockout stages, and that's whenever we'll test whether Ulster can take another step up again.
Barry, I want to talk to you about Munster, well, maybe more specifically one of Munster's players, Joey Carberry, really stood up against New Zealand, and there were some doubts about his form going into that. Now, the caveat was he had been injured, so he was still coming back, but how glad are you to see him being able to embrace those pressure moments and kick clutch kicks and just be a talking point in a very good way for his country, and hopefully from here on in for his province?
Yeah, it's massive for Joey personally. You said it with the clutch kicks. His kicking throughout the Autumn Internationals was incredible, and he's proved that in the past. He's come on in those big games, and to know that he has, he has that mindset that he can come on and not be fazed by it. We all know how good Joey is. If anyone needs reminding, just go on YouTube and look up his highlight reels, and you'll see how talented he is. And sometimes just about finding form, and that Munster side is trying to find its balance between playing a little bit more rugby and doing what Munster are good at. And it's just going to take a little bit of time. As you said, Joey was out for almost a year and a half. So, look, I think we've seen great stuff out of him the last 2 weeks. They got to mind him now. Hopefully everything works out. But with him coming back from South Africa, and we get him in front of that home and that home Thomond Park crowd, and get them behind him for those big European Cup games. And it's just going to be a brilliant few months when you get to see all those top Irish internationals going head to head, and in a few more of the inter-pro games as well. So look, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. As we said, we all know what Joe is capable of, and for him to be able to slot into 15 as well in that Argentina game was incredible. So look, it's great for him, and it's great for Irish and Munster rugby.
And look, obviously safety is paramount here, so the right call was absolutely made to not play those games in South Africa. But how damaging is it for Munster going into a huge December to lose out on a couple of games like that, especially when you look at the teams that they're facing?
We'll see what the result is, I suppose, before we make that call, because there would have been really tough two really tough games down in South Africa. So of course it could have primed them well for the European Cup fixtures, but they could be fresh going into this round of the European Cup now, all going as well. So that's all you can deal with in front of your eyes is how you perform in the next game. I know that might be a cliche, but that's the way they're going to be approaching it, and they should have a full strength side for that Wasps game. And as I said, in front of a home Thomond Park crowd, then that's fine from a Munster perspective. They have a lot of experience in that side. That I think that the fact that they haven't played in so long could be a catalyst where they just need to roll up their sleeves and get stuck in.
Gentlemen, before I let you go, I want to talk about Ultimate Hell Week. I had a chat with Stephanie Roach recently, who is also part of it. And I said, look, was it a case that when the cameras went off, they kind of took it easy on you? And her eyes glazed and she had that 1,000-yard stare of, no, absolutely not. And she just said, no, it was exactly as you saw on TV all the time. It was incredibly tough. It was the toughest thing I've ever done. What are your reflections on it now, having done it and having kind of given us as an audience and as a public an insight into that, you pushing yourselves right to the edge?
Was it like did you think it was like that episode of Bear Grylls where he pretends he's sleeping in a camel carcass and then he goes and stays at a Holiday Inn?
Yeah, I didn't think it was quite that extreme, but I said they can't be that tough on them all the time. But no, she didn't even have to say it. I could tell by the look she gave me when I even deigned to mention it.
First of all, Stephanie is an absolute legend. She grew on us massively as the week went on, because she was quiet And then she just took her time, kind of found her feet, and she became an absolute leader in the group. And I was blown away by her. I thought she was an amazing character. And just one of the most heartbreaking moments on the show was whenever she got to what she thought was the finish line. And it was not even the halfway point. Spoiler alert, in case anybody's watching it back. But the look on her face, she was just so broken, and it was such a tough moment. And that just summed up how tough she was and how much she committed to it. She was an amazing character in there.
That's what the beauty of the show is, that they because there's no let off, that's what the end result is. You know, if you got your breaks, or if they took the pressure off, then you wouldn't have those moments where you're just so physically and mentally exhausted. And that is, I suppose, the crux of the special forces. You have to be able to go through that if you want to survive it. And those guys don't mess around. Like, I mean, that's one thing we took away from it as well, is that how incredible they are, what they do. So we only got a taste of it, and we're still trying to mentally recover from it. Yeah, it was an incredible experience, but it was hell. Clues in the name.
Yeah, it definitely was. And even now reflecting on it, I mean, did it maybe... I'm about to say, did it change you? Maybe that's overly dramatic, but if it didn't change you, it definitely seems to have had an effect on you both and anyone else who took part in a positive sense.
Yeah, I mean, I remember saying it to the guys at the end, to the DS guys, that something happened to me about 3 days in where my brain changed, and Trimble didn't like this new Barry. He started hating me because I got like, your man said to me, "Oh, that's what we do. We condition you. Like we break you down, and then that's how you militarize someone. You condition them. It takes about 36 hours." So I definitely changed, and it's incredible to see that you can do that. But
I was taking Barry back to the shop. I was getting a refund.
I want the back.
I want the old Barry back. I felt after we finished, even just driving up. You spend a day really. I spent a day kind of on my own driving home, and you're with your thoughts, and you kind of just then that week. It's a weird week. You're coming out of kind of just culture shock, coming back to normal life again, and you think you're all worldly wise, and there's nothing's changed. There was no moment I thought, oh wow, that was my big learning. I don't think anything's changed, but it was just a brilliant experience. I don't know if you thought the same. Watching it back was a brilliant experience as well, and you realised, how good a group of people it is. Great bunch of people, and so different. But whenever you all get together, you actually have a lot more in common than you think, and it was nice to go through that with those good people as well. Yeah,
when I see the pictures of your nights out and your gathering, you actually look like a team who've got together. It's the same vibe.
Yeah. I think that's what happens when you go through something emotionally with someone and physically, that you do need to come together, and that's class. To kind of end up, you've always got friends for life there, and that's what happens in rugby and sport as well. And I think it's the same in the military. So yeah, look, it's hard to make those connections when you do move on from sport. So to be able to do it and not expect, I think, to do it was a pretty cool experience.
And how did you feel watching it back, Barry?
I found it very entertaining. It was such a brilliant show. Like, the guys who put it together are incredible what they do, and like they captured the funny side of it, because some of the funniest stuff, and the best parts in there were the funniest parts, because when you're under that much stress, hilarious things can happen, like Trimble having to put his puke in his pocket and then zipping up his pockets because he was afraid it would fall out. Yeah. Like that, when does that kind of stuff happen? And when you put those people under that kind of stress, it really brings out the funniest comments and moments. So I was very proud of that, and yeah, that I think that for me is the best part. I tried not to take it too seriously while I was in there, and keep under the radar, and I came across happy enough with that, I think.
And if you two move into serious levels of coaching, is this something you'll make your teams go through? Do you think this could actually bond teams together, or maybe even break them apart? Because it seems to me you'll pick out the weak ones.
She's on our kids. She's on our kids, man. When they start. They start getting out of order. They start puking, make them put it in their pockets. Make them fight. I don't know if there's a time and place for it. I don't know if it's a time. There's something about the DS guys that you need to be that clued in. You need to have been through 20 years of special forces training to have that effect on people. I don't think I could ever have that effect on anyone.
And Andrew, afterwards, did you think to yourself, God, if life had gone another way and I went into the army, I would have made a very good special forces guy?
Going into the army, it wouldn't have even been plan B. It would have been plan Z. Yeah, there would have been a lot of things would have had to fall through for me to go down that route. And had I gone down that route, how well I would have done would have been a reflection of the fact that wasn't my plan A. So it was a great experience. And to be honest, I would do it again. At the time when you're in there's dark moments. It's tough. You're exhausted. You're cold. You're wet. You're stressed. But there was enough good stuff to think that was a pretty cool experience. And not that many people get to do that. So tried to see that as a privilege, really, or as an opportunity that not that many people get to do. So I would do it again, but certainly not for a career, not long term, not as a job.
Yeah, well, it was an absolutely fantastic viewing experience, and fair play to the two of you and everyone else who took part in it. And it's a pity you didn't do the special forces as a career choice, because you look so good in your tuxedos. Either of you could be Bond, and of course there is an opening at the moment.
Surely Bond did not go through what we went through. That is the least likely James Bond experience. Anyway, yeah, well, I certainly prefer to be sitting here in a tuxedo than run around freezing cold on a beach.
He does have a pair of Vans on with his tuxedo, just to point out, so it's not quite Bond.
Okay, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Andrew Trimble and Barry Murphy will be co-hosts for the 2021 Zurich Irish Rugby Awards. They take place this Friday, December 3rd, via Facebook Live on the Rugby Players Ireland Facebook page. This year, 9 awards will be handed out, including the prestigious Zurich Irish Men's Player of the Year Award and the Zurich Women's Player of the Year Award. Barry and Andrew, thank you very much.
Thanks, Million Oisin.
Well, that's almost it for the extratime.com Friday podcast. So much happened in the League of Ireland. We didn't really talk about Manchester United beating Arsenal, but after the game it was confirmed that Michael Carrick is leaving Manchester United. I have to say that surprised me. I thought he'd play some part in Ralph Rangnick's new management setup. Celtic had a 1-0 win against Hearts last night. That means that they're 4 points behind the leaders Rangers, and they're 5 points above Hearts, having played a game fewer. I don't think the Hearts manager was particularly pleased with some of the decisions that were made in that game. James McCarthy was on the bench, but he was an unused sub. Liam Scales was not part of the team. Aaron McAnuff started for Hearts, the former Derry man. Speaking of Derry, Alan Reynolds is now their assistant manager. We did touch on that a little bit earlier on during the conversation with Conan Byrne, but for Waterford FC, that's another option gone. Now, I know he had a falling out with the previous owner, but with this new owner, I thought maybe he'd open the door for him. And, you know, he's a guy who knows the scene in Waterford. He's a good coach. He's a good manager. He's had success before. I think the fans would get behind him. But he's been snapped up by Derry, so that's another option gone. Vinnie Perth, could he be the man to take over Waterford? In many ways, they're kind of similar to where Dundalk were, when Stephen Kenny took over. And I think Vinnie Perth was part of that initial coaching ticket as well. Who knows? And by the time this comes out, they may well have named a manager. Things are moving so quickly in the League of Ireland. Whether or not that's Vinnie Perth, I don't know. Well, that's it for us. We're back on Monday. We'll have Tom O'Connor of extratime.com's roundup of how the Irish did in the UK and beyond over the weekend. We'll talk Gaelic football, hurling, camogie, ladies football, and we'll have more on the roller coaster that is the supposed off-season in the SSE Airtricity League. Who knows what twists and turns might happen over the weekend. If there's one thing that we do know, is that we won't be surprised with more surprises, if that makes sense. Remember, you can contact me on @Oisin Langan, or you can get Extra Time on @Extra Time News. That's it for today. I'll talk to you Monday. Take care. Bye bye.